Okay. All right, we're recording. Okay. I think that, let's see, we're 5 minutes in. Hopefully we've got about everyone. We'll just wait another 30 seconds or so. Okay. I'm going to get going. I'm sure some more people will join as we progress. Look, I want to start by saying the last few days we have read every comment, every DM, all of the messages that you all shared, and it is very clear, that we are not doing enough to support and promote and listen to our community of Black influencers. And we wanted to first take a couple of days to dig into the data to understand where we were, so that could be a guide to helping us get to where we want to be. I don't present this data as a foil, as a way to say, this was right or this is not. This is a jumping off point. This is the floor where we're starting as we climb the stairs to a better place. And, I want to say before I kind of dive into this, that I started this company because I saw how transformative it can be when you get certain opportunities. And I also saw that opportunity was not handed out equally, and access to opportunity was held by the few, not the many. And it wasn't about what you did or your output or your abilities or your talents, but who you knew. And I started Fohr to try and fix that, because I know when you take a great talent and you match it with the right opportunity, that can change lives. And we started this company to do that, to change lives, because I was a person that published content on the internet, and it allowed me to gain access to opportunities that changed my life. And that was the mission 7.5 years ago when we launched. We have not gotten there at all. I think that the last week has shown more than ever that we have not succeeded in that mission equally for all influencers. And I'm here today, committed to the work, committed to doing better, and admitting that we haven't done as well as we could have. And it's not enough to say we'll do better, but you have to ask how and when, and how are you holding yourself accountable to that? I think that transparency is a big part of that. And I think that the call for transparency over the last week has been great to see. And I think that it is through that transparency and through the push for transparency that we can see that change and force the change that we know needs to happen. And as I said, we took a few days to pull together some data to answer some of the questions that were asked of us. We aren't done answering questions. We're not done working on solutions. We're not done putting actions in place. We are only started. And I thank the community for raising their concerns. I think it is clear that, especially in the community of Black influencers, there has been, you know, a feeling of being undervalued and of unfairness from Fohr for years. We should have been listening to that. We should have fixed it years ago. We're committed to fixing it now. And so with that, I want to kind of dive into the presentation and make sure that we have some time for questions at the end. And also, if we do run out of time, which I'm sure we will, you know, I want to talk to as many of you as I can. I've also been recording those conversations, and we're going to be publishing them on our channel. So I'm available for that as well. But I can be long-winded, so I'm going to get into this now. So calls for transparency on a few things from us. First of all, payout disparity based on race, the Fohr team, staff, diversity, and plan, our fee structures for paid opportunities and gifting, freshman class, what we benefited from there, what went, you know, right and wrong with that program, our internal commitments to anti-racism and external commitments to anti-racism, how our offers are calculated, and how our opportunities are distributed. So I'm going to answer all of these questions as transparently as I can. Let's get into it. First, how much money does Fohr make on creator contracts? So we make money in a few ways. When I started the business, the only other people in the game were influencer agencies. Influencer agencies take a percentage of the influencer's payout, and that is how they make money. We operate in a different way. We have three main business models. The subscription self-serve platform starts at $15,000 a year to access it for a brand. When you sign up as an influencer and you get a profile, you're part of that platform. So brands are paying $15,000 a year to be able to filter the platform, find you, look at your profile, reach out to you, pull reports, do a number of other things. The largest part of our business is the managed services business. That is where we run a campaign for a client end to end, from helping them with strategy all the way through to reporting. And in that, influencer selection, briefing, contracting, content review. So the kind of whole stack of what it takes to run an influencer campaign. That starts at $25,000. And we take a fee from the brand. So we charge the brand a agency management fee and technology licensing fee to use the technology we've built and to use our people to execute these campaigns. And the rest of the money goes to the influencers. So none of that fee comes out of the influencers' pay. And the last, which is a small part of the business, is some custom technology. There are clients and campaigns that require custom landing pages and custom technology, and we build that for them. How much do we make on gifting? So we have only run one gifting campaign in the last year, and gifting is just not part of the services that we offer to our managed services clients. I'll clarify that gifting campaign was managed and run by us. I think a lot of influencers have probably seen these bulletin pages. We picked here, these are just some questions from us about if you're attending certain events or if you're vegan. But our clients also create bulletins that relate to gifting opportunities. And that is something that is included in their subscription. So they are not paying us to do that. And we are not making money off of influencers taking those gifting opportunities. But I do think we have heard, you know, in the last week, but also before that there are some flaws in that system. So as we said, for bulletin, the brand submits what their bulletin is going to be. They can then say, I want to send this out to any influencer who is in New York City, Chicago, Atlanta, or Miami with between 25,000 followers and 50,000. And it could send that to thousands of people. And then those influencers get it and says, hey, there's an opportunity. Do you want to take part in it? You can raise your hand. And let's say 500 people raise their hand, but the brand only wanted to work with 5 people. Well, that's not really fair. And that leaves us in a situation where influencers feel like, the only thing I get from Fohr are these unpaid gifting opportunities, and I raise my hand for them and I don't even get them. That's not a good experience, and it's not a fair experience. And so we're committed to changing the way that bulletin works by June 30th to tighten up the parameters. So if you only want to work with 5 influencers, you can't send it out to 2,000 influencers. It's just not fair. We also want to make sure that they are filtering that list down to make sure the influencers it goes to, that the opportunity really makes sense for them, that they're not doing a kind of spray and pray model, because that model just naturally devalues the influencer and makes you just kind of a data point that they're looking at. That is absolutely not what we want. And so by June 30th, we are going to change the way that Bulletin works, so it feels less like you're being taken advantage of. How are payouts calculated? This is an important one to go through as we kind of talk about the broader issues. So a few ways that Fohr is different than other brands, agencies, is that one, we send out offers to creators rather than asking what their pricing is. When we started campaigns about 6 years ago, so I think when we ran our first campaign, influencer pricing was all over the place. There was no standardization. And I felt that we could create a market and create standardization, and create pricing equations and algorithms that could kind of automatically help us to understand what an influencer's post should be worth. So we built that system. It's based off of historical payout data. So we look at everything that we've paid out. We've paid out tens of millions of dollars to influencers, and we'll look at those payouts and find what the average is for an influencer of a certain following tier, and then we will send that offer out. We also, something that we do that is different is we get twice as many influencers approved by the brand than we need in the campaign. This allows us to run things a little bit more quickly. It also allows us to negotiate more if a influencer is coming with pricing that is higher than others. So we developed this approach to try and address the inconsistency and the difficulty in running campaigns, but it's clear that this approach is broken, and we're going to talk about that later. But the fact that so many people in the community are feeling undervalued and feeling underpaid by Fohr is absolutely not okay. And equations and algorithms can have bias, and we need to make sure that ours don't. And we need to rebuild these equations for the world that we are in today, not the world we were in 5 years ago when we built them. We can't have our community feeling undervalued. It's just not okay. I'm going to talk about solutions on that later, but wanted to let you guys know how we do it. Also, as we calculate a single person's payout, we're taking that total campaign budget. We, again, take the fee out that the brand pays for us to manage that campaign, and then the rest of the money goes to influencers. That fee depends wildly on the size of the project, our scope, production work, strategy work, things like that. So it varies. And then we look at the influencers, the historical pricing. We set a CPM, and then we take the number of deliverables, and we come out with a price. I think most of you know what a CPM is, because you're all very smart and savvy, but it's also a marketing term. So I just want to explain that it is kind of the foundation for which all advertising is priced. Cost per 1,000 impressions generally is what it means. And so you take your following, divide it by 1,000, and multiply it by the CPM, and that gets you what the price is. So that's how we operate. There's a huge amount of factors that affect CPMs, and that is why it's so difficult from influencer to influencer or campaign to campaign to kind of say, what are the standards? And remember when I said my hope was to create a standardized market and a standardized pricing model? What I found in growing the business was that just wasn't possible. There were too many factors that went into it to be able to have it just be this standardized pricing. Things like usage rights. Are they using it in an advertisement? That usually increases the price by at least 50%. Exclusivity, and for how long, that increases the price. How desirable is this product? Is it a brand everybody wants to work with, or is it a brand that nobody wants to work with? How sensitive is the category? Am I talking about CBD or politics or sexual health products? Or am I talking about, or am I talking about sneakers? It's going to be more expensive to talk about those categories that are sensitive. Another is expertise and demand. Do they have some sort of expertise outside of their following? An example of this would be influencers who run a business. A lot of times brands come to us and say, we want to work with an entrepreneur. Well, there's not many entrepreneurs who also do brand deals who have over 100,000 followers. So when we find one, they end up getting very expensive. Content production. Are we asking you to shoot a flat lay? Are we asking you to create a video? Are we asking you to shoot 1 look or 7 looks? Those go into the price. How many deliverables? If we're paying for 1 post, we should pay more per post than if we're paying for 10 when we get some economies of scale. Client recommendations. Sometimes a client just wants to work with a single influencer. It doesn't matter what the price is. Even if they're overpriced, they don't care. They want to work with them. That absolutely changes what we pay an influencer. Prior performance. Have they done a good job on the campaigns in the past? We want to reward that with more money. Flip side is also true. Have they done a not great job on the campaign? We want to make sure we pay less for that. And then speed. Sometimes we are executing a campaign and we don't have a lot of time, and so we overpay to make sure that we fill it quickly because it is very last minute. So those are a few of the factors that go into changing a CPM. We'll talk a little bit about freshman class. There was some questions about that. And some of you might not be familiar with it. Freshman class was a program we developed in 2018 to help elevate underrepresented voices in the influencer space. We saw a lack of diversity in the campaigns that we were running and the campaigns that were happening in industry overall. And we felt like we could create a program that could help to change that, by bringing in these incredible underrepresented voices, by introducing to our clients, by providing education, that we could start to change the way the industry was thinking about diversity, not as a checkbox, but as an opportunity, to work with incredible voices and incredible creators. We had a huge amount of applicants. 1,600 people applied. We flew 10 people out to New York City for education, for an event to meet our clients, took them to Instagram. And then there was going to be ongoing education in the 6 months after that. We definitely made some mistakes in the freshman class. And I think one of them was expectations, is that we were so excited and passionate about this project. I think naively, we thought this is going to do so much to change the way people think about diversity in the influencer space. It was ridiculous to think that a 1-week program was going to have that kind of impact. But I think as our excitement grew, as we started to see the kinds of creators and influencers applying, we really felt like this was going to be a springboard for people to change their lives. And I think that was our intention. That was our hope. But the reality was that we didn't have the experience, the clout, or the resources to actually make that happen. So I think we in our excitement, built this program up to be this life-changing moment, and we were not able to make it that. And a lot of the freshman class felt felt that they were taken advantage of. They felt that they were sold like a bait and switch. We were slow to get the ongoing education to roll out. We also, we were so excited about many of the influencers that we ignored follower count, and we selected a lot of influencers whose following was under 10K, and thus made it really impossible for our clients to work with them on paid campaigns, since most clients 10K is kind of the minimum of the influencer size that they will work with. I think we just dropped the ball on this, and we were a small company. We were 15 people at the time, and we just didn't have the resources to see our ambition through, and we let a lot of people down. And I don't know that I've ever really apologized for that. But if there's anyone from the freshman class here, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if it felt like I'm sorry that we weren't able to deliver on the program that we wanted to. And we loved having every single one of them in New York, and we wish that we, could have seen that ambition through to where it was, but we just didn't. We lacked the resources, and that was pretty clear in the way we executed it. There was a question of how many influencers joined the Fohr during the freshman class. This is a look at monthly community growth over the last 4 years. You can see certain spikes, like when we announced follower health, our year in reviews, and in the blue you see while the freshman class was going on, we gained 2,300 influencers into the platform, but it was a fairly standard month for us in general as far as platform growth. But here's the big question. Is there a pay disparity between white and black content creators that work on similar Fohr products? So we looked at $9 million of payout data, and we calculated the CPMs for all of that, and this is what the breakdowns look like. So for black influencers on Fohr, they were paid an $8.14 CPM. White was paid an $8.16 CPM. That means for an influencer with 100,000 followers, the difference in their pay would be $2 on that campaign. So within the kind of standard means of deviation for essentially being pretty similar there. But you can see this is broken out fully by all the races that we have information on, or that we've done payouts for. So to answer this question, clearly there's not a pay disparity between the payouts that go to black versus white creators. I want to briefly address the example that was given in the Open Fohr post. There are a few factors in play that created that disparity. One was that at the time of the campaign, which was a little over a year ago, the influencer that was paid $2,700 had a following of 99,000, and the influencer that was paid the 8,700 had a following that was over 150,000 followers. We had worked with that higher paid influencer before. We had worked with them before. The client had worked with them before on a campaign, and that was the rate that he had negotiated then that we felt was overpaying. But the client really liked the content, and it was at the time very, very difficult to find, kind of male lifestyle influencers with a following of over 150,000. And so there was higher rates for that. And so that is, a case where the client was happy to overpay because there was a partner that they really wanted to work with. I also want to say so one of the reasons it took us a while to pull this data together is that we do not require influencers on Fohr to self-assign race. So on the platform, 28% of our influencers have self-assigned, 70% have not. Of self-assigned, white is 52%, black 16, other POC 31%. This is a look at who has received a paid offer from Fohr in the last 12 months. So you can see 37% of paid offers went to white Caucasian, 24% is in that self-assigned, so it would probably flow out amongst those different groups, 13% to black African American. This is the percentage of offers that were going out. So if we have an offer, what's the likelihood that it was going out to these different racial groups? So you can see that. And this is the updated stat we shared. We were in the middle of getting information on this last week. And we have finished. This is a look at the last year of payouts. 36% of the payouts have gone to white influencers, 23% have gone to black influencers, and you can see the rest of the breakdowns there. We also took a look at who has negotiated their deals. So we keep track of initial offers and then final offers. So you can see here that 61% of black influencers negotiated past their first offer. You can see for white, that's down at 46%, but thought that was a interesting stat to pull in. This data doesn't tell the whole story at all, right? And while looking at that $9 million of data, it's clear that the payouts that we're giving to black and white influencers are the same. I wanted to show you how it looks on a couple of campaigns specifically, because it does differ each campaign. And there's a number of reasons why. This is an example of a self-care brand with no paid social usage. You can see the CPMs there on the left. You can see the percentage of participants and their race breakdown on the right there. Here's another campaign. This is a skincare brand. Again, look at the CPMs, standard across the board, and you can see the breakdown of participants. This is a campaign with paid social usage. So if you see this one was down around $6.50 for a CPM, this one is up to the 15 to 22. Again, you can see the breakdowns here of how those campaigns were split up. So look, it's clear that we're falling short. This is absolutely not good enough, and we will do better. I think there are a few things of how we're falling short currently. One, because we don't force influencers to self-select on ethnicity or race, it makes it so that we can't filter the community that way. So we want to make sure we get more of that data. It also means the reason it took us quite some time to pull this data is because we don't have it in the back end, we had to go in and find it manually. We weren't tracking participant race as closely as we should have past the initial identification phase. So we make sure the lists and the suggestions we send our clients are diverse and representative of the diversity of this country and of their customer base. But after that, we didn't track what the payouts were, making sure that those were all aligned. So what we're doing in the future, what our commitments are, is we're going to supply a full audit of these payouts and CPMs broken down by ethnicity, and we'll supply that to clients, and we can send that out to influencers as well. We are going to submit to clients every year a full breakdown of their campaigns, ethnicity breakdown, and CPMs. We are also going to have internal reporting monthly that we will review. Again, the full breakdown of where our payouts are going, as well as the CPMs and the number of offers. We are also going to give transparency to the influencers who are onboarding into a campaign. What percentage of that campaign is going to have non-white participants? There's been a call in the influencer community to have things like inclusivity riders. I love that. I love I think it is a way that white influencers especially can take a stand and say, I'm not going to, I'm not going to do this campaign if it's not 50% POC and it's not 30% Black influencers. And we are going to provide that transparency to influencers as they are onboarding. We're also going to send a quarterly report to all influencers with all of our payouts, not only by ethnicity, but also size of influencers, different tiers, and what the average payouts were, what the low payouts were, and what the high payouts were. Our goal is to make sure that every influencer on our platform is informed about, at least inside of Fohr, what those payouts look like, so that they have more tools in their hand when they go to negotiate either with Fohr or with another partner. Look, that doesn't change the feeling. I've heard from so many of you this week that you feel like you're being lowballed by Fohr, that feel like the offers are not fair. And that, as I said, is not good enough. It's not okay. We can't start a partnership if one partner enters it feeling like they got taken advantage of. That's not a partnership, right? And so we need to fix that. There's a few ways I think that the system has caused this, and I want to speak to first. One is that, as I mentioned before, the way we send out offers was built for speed. It was built for efficiency. It was built to try and get as many participants into a campaign as quickly as is humanly possible. That has created a feeling that offers aren't negotiable, that you have to accept right away, that if you don't click that button in the next hour, somebody else is going to take your spot. And we did that on purpose, okay? We built it in that way because when we started, it was so hard to get these campaigns filled quickly, and we wanted to figure out a way to move it along. We solved that problem, and we created a much bigger problem, one where people get an offer and they feel almost forced to take it, even if it's a low ball, because they feel like, well, I'm not going to get anything else, and even though, over 50% of the influencers are negotiating, that means there's a lot of people who aren't and who are probably feeling burned, and that's not okay. We've also hidden in the market. I've said, look, this is a marketplace. Our pricing is driven by the market. And what I didn't realize, and what is true, is that markets, much like algorithms and equations, can have bias. Markets can be unfair. And as a market maker, we have a responsibility to make sure the market we're creating is fair and equitable for everybody that is a part of it. And I think we've fallen short on that. If our partners in the Black influencer community are raising their hand and saying, this doesn't feel fair, then we've fallen short, and we need to relook at that. So what are our commitments? So as I said before, we're committed to publishing a breakdown of the CPMs by tier to educate, especially influencers new to the space, on what they should be pricing, or at least what the pricing looks like on Fohr. Not just the average, but what the lows and highs were, so they can see what the potentials are, right? And get a sense of where they want to be. Because just because the average price for 100,000 followers could be 1,200 doesn't mean that you shouldn't feel confident to charge 18, right? We need to give all that data. We're also going to redo the calculation method for offers. I said that already. We're going to make that adjustment by June 30th. By June 30th, we will have a new way of calculating initial offers, and our hope, with hopes of them being more fair, and having people not feel that every offer that Fohr sends them is a low ball. We are also going to be surveying more. I think that a lot of the anger and frustration with Fohr that has been coming to light this week has been, as I said, happening for years. We haven't done a good job of listening, and we absolutely need to do a better job. And so, one way that we're going to do that is by making sure that we have, a structured way to survey the participants of a campaign to see where they're feeling. You should leave a campaign with Fohr and feel great. You should feel like you should feel like you were valued. You should feel like you did good work. You should feel like you want to build a long-term relationship with us. If that's not the case, we need to see that and we need to fix it and understand it. We immediately are removing the countdown clock from the offer page to remove the feeling of an inability to negotiate. Okay, so while our campaigns will still, there's still time periods that will be communicated as to when we need to have an answer by, we are not going to make influencers look at an offer and also looking at a ticking clock. And I don't think that's fair. We're also going to make sure that influencers know that that offer is an initial offer, not a final one. We're going to be more clear about that. We are, as the stats show, the majority of the work that we do, we are negotiating with that influencer before they accept the offer. But we want to make sure that, if you don't feel the price is fair, that that you have the ability to negotiate that rate. We will also rethink and retrain our team on the onboarding and negotiation practices and institute that by June 30th. We want to make sure our team's being fair, and we're going to retrain them and look at the way that we do our negotiations. So there's the question of, do we pay equally to white and black influencers, which we answered. And then one that says, I feel like I'm being lowballed. And then a third thing we hear all the time is, I haven't gotten any deals from Fohr. And this is one we hear constantly. And there's 103,727 influencers on Fohr. We have paid 4,230 of them. So 96% of our platform has never been paid directly by us, potentially through one of our partners using the platform, the subscription, but never by us. I think that some of my optimism and ambition has again created unaligned expectations. I created this tool because I wanted to democratize opportunity, and I want everyone to be able to come to Fohr and say, this is going to play a part in my future success. But looking at these numbers, as far as getting opportunities from Fohr, it is very, very rare that an influencer on Fohr would get those opportunities, and we need to make sure to change that and to communicate that better. Another thing is that we've really struggled to keep up with the growth of our community. 100,000 people is a lot. We don't have a community manager. One of the commitments that I believe is in a later slide, but I can talk about now, is we're committed to lifting our hiring freeze right now that we're on because of the economic impacts of COVID-19. We're going to lift that hiring freeze and hire a senior employee to be the head of our community. That's somebody that will sit on the executive team. That is somebody who will be part of every decision that we make. Our business is built on influencers. Our business is influencers. We need a person that is the bridge between us and those influencers. And it's become really clear that that person should be a Black woman, that we need to understand this community that is so important to us. When we need somebody part of that community, we need an advocate in the company pushing us to do better. And we're making that commitment. The job posting will be going up by June 30th. The job will be filled by August 30th. Another commitment is that 20%, so when we submit a list of suggested influencers to our clients, we're committing that 20% of that list has to be people we've never worked with. There are incredible talents, incredible voices on Fohr that we have never worked with, and we need to. And the incredible colleagues I have that execute campaigns are very busy. They have a lot going on, and they sometimes then find influencers that they like to work with, who are easy to work with, who they know will just get the job done, and we lean on those influencers. You can see that 4,200 influencers have been contracted, but for 10,700 contracts. And so we're working with the same people fairly often. That's not okay. For a platform that was made to democratize opportunity, we're not doing a good job democratizing that opportunity at all, especially in the communities that already have less access to those opportunities, right? So minimum 20% of all submitted lists will have people that we have never worked with before. And we are going to also release data on the volume of first-time influencers contracted on an annual basis, so we can hold us to the fact that we are working with new people consistently. A lot of other questions have been about our own team and the breakdown of it. As I said in our first post, we are a mostly white company. That is not okay. That is absolutely something that we need to work on. Right now, this is the breakdown of the company. We have no people of color in leadership positions. Not okay. Not okay. We had 22 hires planned this year. We had to scrape them because of COVID. Many of those were leadership positions. Many we hope to fill with diverse hires, but we haven't done that yet. So you can't lean on something you haven't done. If you look at how we got to where we are, there's a few issues. One, 2 years ago, we had my co-founder was Chinese, and that was the only person of color in the company. And we said, we need to change this. If we're going to be a modern company who is helping our clients market to diverse communities, we have to change the way our company looks. We've hired 20 people since then. 10 have been people of color. But we had too broadly people of color as our focus of diversity. And we haven't reached out enough to the Black community to make sure that we're recruiting from them. We relied too heavily on our own networks for referrals for hires. That's, I think, 70% of the people who've hired at Fohr were referral. Well, when you have a white company, you have white networks, right? And then the executive team has all been with me for 6 years. We haven't made any senior leadership hires. And then we've been promoting from within. So that's the reason the company is where it is. It's not okay. So what are we doing? One thing, we have, we're putting together an advisory board of Black industry professionals. This is a paid position. This is a position that I'm going to be held accountable to reporting into every month. This is a board that is going to have access to data at Fohr, access to our strategic plans. We'll be reporting in our diversity of our applicant pools. It is a board that we look to give, a broad amount of power to. As we don't have diverse voices in our leadership position, I need to make sure that I'm empowering people from those communities to hold us accountable and to be a part of the change at Fohr. As I said, we're hiring this community manager. We'll also be partnering with third-party organizations to ensure that we have a diverse pipeline of potential applicants for any, certainly for this community hire, but going forward as well. Mandatory training for all hiring managers to eliminate bias in interviewing. This is a big problem across the world. And we need to make sure our hiring managers have had specific training about eliminating bias during interviews and ensuring that our Black employees have a clear career path for internal promotion at Fohr. What do we do to ensure that our employees are anti-racist? So last year we had diversity training from a third-party human resources organization. We also pre-screen any employees' socials for anything that is not aligned with our values. And we make sure that our employees have access to external human resources services as well, should they need to raise concerns or talk to somebody outside the company. Going forward, we are committed to mandatory training for new employees. So anyone that comes on is going to do this training, and then the whole company doing this training annually. We've also made the commitment to have further diversity training from a professor who's a specialist in race relations in America. That will start over the course of the next few weeks. What do we do to ensure content creators are anti-racist? So on the platform, our technology allows our clients to search an influencer's content. That allows them to search for inflammatory terms, racist language, bullying language, and find those people and not work with them. We need to amend our policy on Fohr's website. We're going to do that by June 30th to make sure that anybody who is displaying bullying or racist rhetoric is not welcome at Fohr, and they will be removed from our platform immediately and permanently. Those terms will be up by June 30th. I'd say they'd be up before that. We just got to get the lawyers to draw them up. For campaigns, right now, we're doing search for inflammatory terms for what brands we call brand safety. We need to bulk that up. We need to build a product that is automatically scanning an influencer's past posts to pull anything up that they may have said that is racist, bullying, or otherwise. So we are going to build that tool, and we'll have that up in the coming weeks. Also, that community manager position. What do we do to ensure that brands are anti-racist? One thing is that every single influencer list that we submit to clients will be at least 50% people of color and 30% Black in those lists. And I understand as well that there are variations and there is diversity inside of a racial identity. And we need to make sure that when we say 30% Black, it isn't 30% light-skinned, only light-skinned Black creators. We need to make sure that we understand and the broad diversity in this country, and we are making sure our clients' campaigns represent that diversity. So 50% people of color, 30% Black in all client recommendations. We are going to institute upfront and transparent diversity minimums to our managed campaign clients. As I said, we're going to provide influencers with knowledge into what those diversity benchmarks will be. We also have morality clauses that allow us to end a relationship with a client who we don't agree with their values, or a influencer does not agree with their values. Okay. So we've got a few minutes here before time's up, and I know that we can't answer every question. Hold on, guys. I'm just learning how to use Zoom. I guess before I go into questions, I do want to say we'll be publishing all of this. We'll be publishing this video. We will be publishing the full list of commitments. We will be announcing that independent board, and what their powers are and what my responsibility is to them over the coming weeks. This is the start. This is the start. This is where the work starts. It should have started in earnest years ago for us. And while we have made strides, while we have pushed our clients to make our campaigns more diverse, we haven't done enough. And I'm personally going to work to try and repair the trust that was lost with a lot of our community, right? And I'm going to do that through our actions, you know, and I hope that you all continue to hold us accountable. I hope that, you know, if this doesn't feel like enough, that you say it, and that the things that we've committed to, that we're held to count for. So let me stop this. Okay. Let's see. So someone said earlier in the, Ariel Frank said earlier in the presentation, you said that you do tens of millions of dollars in deals, but the CPM breakdown was just based on 9 million. What percentage of total deals is 9 million? 9 million is, we looked at the last year. So that represents the last year. And, you know, our focus is where we go moving forward. Our focus is what the future looks like and making sure that that future is a more just and equitable one. And so we felt looking at the last year, which constituted $9 million, was you know, enough to kind of give us a baseline of where we are. I can, you know, if let me see, we've got a few minutes. I'm happy to bring some people on to ask a question. There was a question about that POC, the way we deliver lists. It's total 50% is going to be POC, and then of that, 30% of it will be Black influencers. If anyone has questions, do you want to raise your hand? As I wait for that, somebody said, can you address the high-low pricing ranges inputs we provide as influencers on the platform? So Lisette, those are used to guide pricing. I believe as a platform, we actually walked away from that because pricing was so complex and there were so many different factors that I think it's hard for an influencer to say, like, what's your price? It's like, well, it depends. Is there exclusivity, or is there usage rights? Is this a brand I love or one I don't love? Is it, you know, do I have to do an involved shoot or an easy shoot? But I hope that, you know, the way we redesign these pages, again, and when we redesign the way that we calculate our offers, that those offers are coming in and not feeling like they're lowballed, not feeling like they are not fair. So I hope that answers that question. I don't see any, sorry guys, it's hard to run this and look at the questions here. Catherine says, does this mean your executive leaders will remain all white? No. The community hire will be part of the executive team, and we are absolutely committed, once this hiring freeze lifts, to filling more managerial positions, more entry-level positions, and executive positions with Black, brown colleagues. Absolutely, that is not the intention for us long term. I'm just sorry, guys. I'm just looking through this chat to find some questions. Rachel, if you want to drop me a line about data questions, I can answer that for you. Someone asked, can you explain how there's only 2 cents average disparity between white and black influencer payouts? Will you be sharing the exact payouts? We'll be sharing the, we'll be sharing that data. The reason there's so little disparity between them is that, again, the offers are set by those equations. So the offers are pretty standard across the board, and so it should be that those CPMs are very similar. We have NDAs and contracts with influencers, and those payouts institute thousands and thousands of contracts. So it would be impossible for us to release all of that. But those numbers being so close are by design, not accident. And yeah, I think there's some question about fees and stuff. Contractually, there's only so much I can talk about. So when I say that I'm trying to be as transparent as I can be, there's some things I cannot be transparent about. Because I'm sorry for the format here on the questions. I think we could have done better there. I'm committed to having these conversations transparently, and if there are questions that weren't answered, I know there are. I know there's still questions we need to answer. We're going to publish all of this, but also if you are interested in having a conversation with me one-on-one and recording that and publishing it unedited, I'm also committed to doing that. I've had 2 or 3 of those conversations this week. I have some more scheduled for later in the week. So I want to be a partner in this. I want to be listening. I want to be a champion of change. And I want to work to win back the trust of this community. We are the community. That's what Fohr is built on. We were built to help influencers, chase their dreams. And I think that's where we want to be. And I want to make sure that this platform is fair for everybody. I want to make sure that our partners aren't feeling undervalued by our company. And I want you guys to know that, you have me if you want to speak further. But I also expect to be held accountable for the things that we have said and for the initiatives and actions that we'll lay out in the coming weeks. And we'll keep checking in with you guys. And I really appreciate y'all taking the time. And I hope to see many of you soon when we can see people again. Thank you so much.